So now let's talk about the system function in the OS module. This is an absolutely amazing function that gives you a lot of power, but please be very, 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 very careful with this function. Basically, what this function allows you to do is it allows you to run a command on the operating system at the command line or at the terminal. So if you want to do something such as touch, that's being able to create a file. If you want to create a directory, if you want to do something on the operating system itself, the system function will allow you to do that. The reason that I say be very careful with this though is it's literally running a command on the operating system at the privilege level you're logged in as, or whatever privilege level your script is running as. So if you log into your system as root and this script fires off, basically your script is going to be able to do whatever you can do on the system. So if you put this into a production script, somehow a hacker is able to compromise one of the arguments going into the script that you've created, you might run into an issue where they're able to compromise your entire server. So what the system function allows you to do is it allows you to run a command on the command line, on the terminal of the operating system your script is running on, and it does it at the basically security level that you're logged in as. Now, if you want to be able to run a command on the local operating system, there are two basic little functions that you're able to use in the OS module. There is the system function, and then there's something called the popen function. The difference with the system function is that you do not get any kind of return. Basically, you send the command, and that's it. If you want to actually get the response back from the operating system, you would use the popen function to do that. So basically, if you wanted to run the ping command and be able to get a response back for whatever the response was, you would use popen for that. If you're doing something like touch in order to create a file, or clear screen, that's what I'm going to show you in a minute, you would use the system function for that. So here's an example using the system function from the OS module to clear the screen. This is the greatest little trick if you're going to create some kind of command line utility. One of the problems if you create a command line utility is basically all of your commands and all of your responses keep stacking up in that terminal screen, and it looks ugly as hell. Wouldn't it be nice if you could clear that screen in between when people are basically putting in arguments into your script so that it creates a nice clean screen for you. So I have basically a simulator here, basically a simple little script, and what this simple little script is going to do is it's going to write out a random number between 0 to 10, and it's going to do that essentially every 1 second. So we're going to import the OS module. We're going to use that in a little bit. We're going to do from random import randint, so we can get a random integer. From time import sleep. We're going to use that for the sleep function, so we can pause for a second in between every loop of this script. And what we're doing here is before we have the os.system function, we're simply going to do while true. We're going to print a random number between 0 to 10, and then we're going to sleep for 1 second, right? And so when we do that, and this is kind of what I've been showing you up until this point with the classes, right? You have all that information up at the beginning, and then we can see we're creating new random numbers approximately every 1 second, and all those old numbers are there, right? So this is all just kind of clogging up the screen. It's not very pretty, it's not very nice. Wouldn't it be great if between every loop we could simply clear the screen so all we get is the number that we care about? So that's where we can put this in, right? So comment this back out. So we have this os.system, and then we're going to run a command. So the command, you have to put it within single or double quotation marks. If you're using Mac OS or if you're using Linux, the command will be clear. That's how you clear the terminal screen. If you are using Windows, you use CLS. It is slightly different. Now, simply by having this, when we run this, basically we see 0, 1. See how now all we have is we have the one number that we care about. In between each loop, it clears the screen, deletes everything else on the screen, so we only see what we actually care about. This is a great little tool for being able to create command line apps, because this way, again, you're not You're not just getting all this crap on the screen that the users have to be able to sort through or figure out what's going on. So another example is the touch command that I kind of talked about before. So if you're using Mac or if you're using Linux, the touch command either creates a file or it changes the timestamp for when a file was modified. So you might want to use touch every once in a while. If you need to create a number of different files for the script that you're going to be running and then be able to write into those files, those types of things, you might use the touch command. But anyways, it's just a very simple command. We don't really need a response back or anything. And so we're going to do import os.system, and we're going to say touch, and then we're going to say what file we're going to create, so new-file.txt, and so this will get created in our current working directory. So we have our little explorer over here like we normally do. I don't know if you can see it. Basically, you can see there's no additional file there yet. I'm now going to run this script. And look at that, we have a new-file.txt. The important thing here is just seeing that you're able to run commands directly on the operating system using the OS module and the system function. So this function is why it's important to be something called a full stack developer, right? So you will hear about front-end developers and back-end developers, database administrators, and the whole 9 yards. And you may wonder functionally why that's important. And why it's important here is because when you're creating these scripts, you're going to need to be able to understand more environments than simply Python, right? By being able to run commands directly on the Linux operating system or the Mac operating system, basically what that allows you to do is it allows you to get all the power of all the command line utilities that might be able to be installed onto that operating system and bring that power into the functionality that your script has. The thing is, in order to be able to do that, in order to be able to run the commands on Linux or Mac OS or even Windows, you probably should understand those operating systems, right? You probably should understand permissions and security and file structure and how all of that kind of stuff works. And so showing you things like this is why it's important to understand so many topics in the technology world, because just knowing Python means you'll be able to understand what to do in Python. But then being able to understand Python and your underlying operating system means you're able to bring in a whole bunch more functionality, right? So this is why things like being a full stack developer is really important, even if you don't want to be a normal system administrator. Oh, and the final thought for this module. Did I say be careful? Did I say be careful? Remember, this command right here, it is literally running at the security level that you're logged into or that the script is running at. So if you screw something up using the system function, it can be bad really, really, really quick. So be careful.